The brothers.
Okay, guys. If you're watching this, it's because you have uncovered the remains of the human civilization. And unfortunately, it was wiped out because of the coronavirus. But we wanted to give future archaeologists, aliens, excavators, whoever finds this in the future, we wanted to let you know which video games are worth playing, because if aliens come down 5,000 years from now and find the remains of a human civilization, and then they put in Uncle Fester's Quest, they're going to just turn around and go. They're not going to stick around. They're not going to realize all the awesome games that we had to play. So anyway,
this room is full of games, and unfortunately, the world is ending, as you all know.
Yeah,
it's about to end. I don't know exactly when it's going to end. We don't even have a table. Our table is gone. I don't even know where it went.
Dude, no table.
There's no table. There's no more toilet paper in the world. There's nothing left, guys.
This is it.
Except video games. Whoever excavates this basement in like 1,000 years, you're right. They need to know which games to play. We are here to tell you which games you should play and which games you should avoid.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do right now, we're just going to start with the NES, and we're just going to madly grab like our 5 favorite games, and then we're just going to keep going through systems, and then these future generations will know which games are the best ones.
Yeah. And, hey, it was nice knowing y'all, by the way.
Yeah.
This has been fun. I wish it didn't have to end like this. I wish the coronavirus didn't wipe out all of humanity, but I don't know. I was watching the news, and it kind of sounds like.
I mean, it is what it is. It was a nice run while it lasted. I
know.
Thanks for watching all of our videos, and if you're the civilization who uncovered this room in 1,000 years, have a seat and enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. NES.
Okay, NES, go.
Okay, we're back from the NES games that we just looted.
Okay,
now,
guys.
Andy has these 5 in his pile.
Yeah.
So what do we got?
So first one is Punch-Out. Mike
Tyson's
Tyson's
Punch-Out.
Although they're both kind of the same.
Yeah, but you want to beat Mike Tyson.
So Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is probably the greatest sports game of all time. I'm just going to say that.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't really play sports games anymore, but this game was awesome. Every fighter is fun all the way through Mike Tyson. It's just great.
It holds up really well,
holds
too.
up.
It was made in the 80s, and it's still super playable 30 years later. So.
Yeah, the play control holds up. It's kind of a rhythm game at heart. Like, you have to have really fast reflexes, and most of it is just knowing when to dodge and then counter punch, but it's super fun.
007-373-5963. Remember the code.
Got it.
What else you got?
Anyway, Legend of Zelda. This is the first Legend of Zelda. This is the one that started it all. I know it's a little primitive to youngsters out there, but this game is sweet. It broke ground in so many areas. It was non-linear. It was the first non-linear game I ever played.
Man, me too.
Before this game, every game I played was like, okay, start here, go to the end of the level, finish, hit the flagpole, hit the goalpost, whatever. A cleared from, beginning to end kind of thing. And all of a sudden, this was like, you start off in the very first screen, and it's like, wait, I can go left or right. Well, which way do I go? Oh, there's a cave there.
Why? What's in there?
What's in there? You can do the levels in any order you want. I mean, there's some limitations on that, but really, if you have the items to do it, there's nothing stopping you from finishing level 8, like, first. It's incredible.
It is incredible.
Zelda's awesome.
Legend of Zelda.
The other game, well, I got 3 games left. They're all Mario games. It's Super Mario Bros. 3. I don't even have to say anything about this. This is probably my favorite.
Well, you do, because 1,000 years from now, they don't know about this game.
This is probably my favorite NES game of all time. If I had to pick one NES game, it's going to be Super Mario Bros. 3.
I think I would agree with you.
You would agree with that?
I think so.
It's so big. There's so many worlds to it. There's so many levels. The play control is tight. The music is awesome. Everything about it is, the power-ups are great. Everything from the Tanuki to the Hammer Brothers suit.
It really
everything
is
great.
It's perfection.
It's perfection platforming. I don't know what to say about it. Mario Brothers 2 is the other one, and it's unlike any other Mario game you've ever played. If you played the first Mario and you're like, oh, this is just another rehash. No, it's not. If you want that rehash, go to Japan and play their Super Mario Brothers 2. That's not what this is. This is totally different than the Japan one, and this is better, by the way, than the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2. My last game is the very first Super Mario Brothers. It needs no introduction. Well, I guess it does need an introduction because you're aliens from the future. This game should have saved humanity from the coronavirus. I don't know why it didn't. It's that good. People are still speedrunning this game to this day, shaving off hundredths of a second to try to get a new world record. It's insane. You watch speedrunning videos and like...
They have it down in under 5 minutes. No joke.
Watch some speedrunning videos, like the history of the speedrunning community on this game. It's fascinating. It's incredible. Yeah. So there you go. There's my top 5.
So in my top 5, I have a very similar top 5. These 4 games are all there. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3, and The Legend of Zelda. But instead of Super Mario Brothers, in my top 5, I'm going with Contra.
Nice.
This was probably the first 2-player co-op game that I remember playing. And for a Japanese developer developing a game with macho-looking army dudes shooting guys with guns, I mean, it's incredible that they came up with this. I mean, at this point, Japanese developers were coming up with just a lot of fighting games and puzzle games and things like that. So I don't know how Konami ever came up with this, but the game is incredible. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start. Put in that code before you start. You get 30 lives. It's the only way to beat the game unless you're some kind of freak. It's super, super fun. Again, 2-player at the same time.
It's pretty choice.
Yeah, Contra. So these are my 5, and then we got to go on the Super Nintendo.
Not for me.
Yeah, not for me either. I thought it would be yours.
Hurry up, we're running out of time.
I know. So I have my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. I'm going to start with Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country came out, and everything you saw before it came out was like, wow, it looks too good to be true. Like, you saw the pictures in the magazines, and you saw the commercial. They literally mailed a VHS tape to me about this game.
Yeah.
I still have it, by the way. I just found it recently. The future's not going to know what a VHS tape is, but don't worry about that. Donkey Kong Country is just as good as it looks. It was just as good, if not better, and everybody said it was. Just platforming perfection. It's beautiful. The music is amazing. David Wise did the soundtrack on this game. I adore Donkey Kong Country. I think the first one is the best. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that one, but hey.
So this game came out around the same time as some of these next-gen consoles, like the Jaguar, the 3DO was out, and these systems were pumping out their versions of platformers. Like Jaguar had Rayman, 3DO had, I don't know, Jex, or I don't know.
The 32X was out. The Sega CD may have even been out. We had next-gen Sonic games by this point.
Yeah. This game for the 16-bit Super Nintendo looked better than all of those platformers for those 32-bit consoles.
And it sounded better, too.
And it sounded better, and it played better. I mean, it was an overall better game. But just graphics-wise, it looked better. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen.
So I heard a story once that I don't know if it's true, but I'm going to tell it anyway because this is the internet. So Rare is the company that developed this, and they were a company that was partially owned by Nintendo, based in London, I believe. And Rare came over and they were showing Nintendo some of this game, and they had a round table and they had a TV on there, and they were playing some of the game. And literally, some of the people who worked for Nintendo looked under the table and they were looking for a computer. They didn't believe that the Super Nintendo could be this powerful and look this good. Yeah. They thought it was a joke, that there's no way that our Super Nintendo, there's no way it looks this good. There has to be a hidden computer somewhere. And the guys at Rare were like, no, mate, it looks this good, brother. How do
they're English, they're not Australian.
I don't know. All right, what's the next game on my list? Final Fantasy 3. I don't even know where to start with this game.
So if you're from the future and you've never played this game before, dude, I envy you. Like, I want to be in those shoes again.
I would love to have my memory wiped and replay this game. It's a Japanese role-playing game, or JRPG. And I will recommend that if you're going to get into JRPGs, and you should, that you do not start with this, because this will ruin almost every other one for you. Start with something else. Start with Lufia. Start with Breath of Fire. Start with anything except for Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah.
Because this game just ruins everything else.
It does, yeah.
We've talked about this game a number of times on this channel. We both adore it.
Huge fans.
Huge fans. Life-changing. Final Fantasy 3. Next game on my list is Super Metroid. The first time I finished Super Metroid at the age of 15, I basically put down the controller and just bowed to my television, got up and walked away. I was in silence. I was out of words. There's nothing to say. This game is perfect. It's 100% perfect. There isn't a single thing that should be added or taken away from this game. I know everyone's talking about remakes, and people say, Nintendo should remake Super Metroid. Nope. You don't mess with perfection, boys. You do not mess with perfection. It's a perfect game.
Agreed.
Super Mario World, speaking of perfect games. Now, if you're going to only play one Mario game ever, this is the one you want to play.
Yeah.
Super Mario World. I don't know how they did it. In 1991, they made this game. I don't know how they did it. And it still holds up to this day. Play any other game from 1991, and it's going to be very clunky, but not this game. This game is phenomenal.
Agreed.
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. There's going to be a Zelda game practically from every system that if we had a CDI in here, we'd pull out a Zelda game and proclaim it to be one of the best. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This is a lot of people's favorite Zelda game of all time, and I don't blame them for that opinion. It is incredible. It is a near perfect game. It's just a massive adventure, an unbelievable soundtrack. The story, for the first time in a Zelda game, I remember just paying attention to the story going, wow, there's a lot going on here. Before it was just save the princess.
The game begins with you saving the princess from a castle, which is a really weird twist on a Zelda game. Usually that comes at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That's how this game starts. So yeah, they took some of that classic Zelda playbook and they kind of threw it out the window.
This game is as good as everyone says it is. It's on a lot of top 10 lists, top 5 lists of all time, and it should be there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing. Okay, that's my top 5 on the Super Nintendo. We don't have a lot of time here with the world ending, so we're going to go to Andy right now.
So my top 5 is the same as his, except replace Donkey Kong Country with Final Fantasy 2. So this is actually Final Fantasy 4, but because of Japan not bringing over everything, Americans didn't know any different anyway. It was called Final Fantasy 2 when it came out. I love this game to death. It is the game that got me into well, I can't really say that. Final Fantasy Legend was the game that really got me into RPGs. That game got me into this game. Final Fantasy Legend was the reason I got this game, because I really enjoyed it, and I was like, oh, there's a Super Nintendo Final Fantasy? I gotta see about this, and so I got this game. I love it to death. I've been through this probably over a dozen times in my life. The characters are awesome. The plot is great. The translation is a little wonky. It doesn't have...
You spoony bard.
Yeah, they've relocalized it in recent releases to make it a little more, I don't know, contemporary. But the music in this game, dude, the music blew me away. I mean, prior to this, I had played games with a great soundtrack, like Zelda and Mario, but the variety, the large amount and the variety of great music in this game I had never seen before in video games.
I didn't know music could sound like that in a video game until this game.
It blew me away.
And there's really only one RPG on the Super Nintendo that's better and that has a better soundtrack, and it's this game.
Yeah, I agree.
It really is the only one. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. This game is phenomenal.
And I know a lot of people would say Chrono Trigger. This barely edges out Chrono Trigger for me.
Yeah, you're going to see Chrono Trigger on the top of a lot of lists, and it is great. But do not sleep on these games.
I love Chrono Trigger, but for me, I'll take Final Fantasy 2 over Chrono Trigger.
I agree.
Okay.
That was a Super Nintendo.
That was Super Nintendo.
Should we go to Game Boy now?
I think we should.
Let's go to Game Boy.
Okay.
All right, now we're doing Game Boy / Game Boy Color. And I don't even know if we have any Game Boy Color games that are making the top 5, personally.
Well, technically, DX is a Game Boy Color
Zelda
game.
Link's Awakening. This came out on many different platforms. It's on the Nintendo Switch remade. This was by far my favorite Game Boy game of all time. When it first came out, it was like, oh, they're going to shrink the Zelda experience. And everyone was really, really worried because we had just had so much love for the franchise with the 3 games that had been out at that point. And this came out, and it didn't feel like a shrunken Zelda game. It just felt like a full-fledged NES game with, again, a great story and an amazing soundtrack. I mean, it might have been the best Zelda soundtrack at that point when it came out, or at least tied for the best.
The Game Boy had a sound chip that was so unique that nothing else sounded like Game Boy games. And to me, I like how Game Boy games sound more than NES games. I think it sounds more stereo, there's a certain richness to it. There's layers to it that NES games didn't have. And nothing else sounds like. I absolutely love a lot of the music from Game Boy games. And it's interesting, this was an R&D 1 game. So prior to this, all Zeldas and Marios were handled by R&D 4. It was the department, the division of Nintendo that made games.
It was the one where Miyamoto worked in.
R&D 4 was Miyamoto, yeah. Mm-hmm. But they let R&D 1 handle this, who was, Gunpei Yokoi was the head of that division, and he invented the Game Boy. And so they handed Zelda over to that, which that's kind of a risk, R&D 1 didn't have a great track record with games. They made a lot of games like Kid Icarus, right? Games that are just kind of like, okay, this is not great. But they knocked it out of the park with Zelda, for sure.
Yeah. So next game on my list would be Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins.
That's fun.
This is a really fun game. It's not in my top 5 Mario games, but in terms of Game Boy games, it's just a great Mario experience. If you're going to play one handheld Mario game, this is the one you want to play. Again, a save feature. It's the first Game Boy Mario game with a save feature. Just really colorful. I don't want to say colorful because there's like 2 colors on the system.
Yeah.
It's a very pretty game is what I'm trying to say. The music is really excellent in this, which again, how did they knock it out of the park with R&D 1? I don't know.
The music was excellent in the first Super Mario Land.
Yeah, it was.
And that's a real mediocre game.
No.
That game was,
you can skip that game.
You can skip that game. It's just okay. It's very easy, but even the music was great. Wow.
Right, well, the world's ending. We got to keep going.
Oh,
here.
crap. The world's ending. How much time do we got?
Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. This was, I believe, the first Metroid game that you or I had ever played.
I had played the first one, but not very much.
I don't think I had
We didn't own it.
No, we didn't. Yeah. I remember staring at the map in Nintendo Power just going, wow,
yeah,
this looks incredible. But for some reason, I don't know, we just never got it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But we picked this game up, and it delivered. Play Metroid 2. It's a phenomenal game.
Solid choice.
Quirk is next on my list.
Quirk is awesome.
Quirk is a desert island game if you ever need one. And it's such an incredible puzzle game. Your brain will literally start leaking out of your ears if you play this too long in one session. You just go crazy. It's a little easier now with Google. You can just cheat if you want to. But man, don't cheat though. Like really try to exercise your brain when you play this.
Yeah, you're only cheating yourself.
Yeah, you are. Again, really good desert island game. There's no way you could ever I don't know, maybe people have mastered it. Speaking of desert island games, the original Tetris on Game Boy. We never had the one on the NES. This is the first Tetris I ever played. It was the only one that we ever owned and for years, probably to the N64 Tetris. I actually used to keep track of my high score because there's no save file on this. 547,850 is my high score. I wrote it down on the back of the cartridge, and I wrote April 6, 2001. So I was playing this game 12 years after it came out, and I wrote down my high score. I wrote down a couple of them. I crossed out an older one. 547,000 though. That's a great score. I don't know if you remember your personal best, but
it was over 500. I don't remember the exact number.
You didn't write it down on the back of the cartridge?
I did not.
Man.
But I played it a ton. I mean, to get that good, you have to play it a lot. That's over 500,000. That's an elite category of Tetris players to hit over 500,000 on the original Tetris. That's tough.
And I didn't write on the cartridge. I put like a piece of a Post-it note on, and then I wrote on that.
You didn't want to deface a Nintendo product.
You got to take care of your stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely a desert island game. I will still be playing Tetris till I'm an old man, I'm sure. So,
yeah. Have you played Tetris 99 on the Switch?
Yeah, a couple of times. I haven't given it a whole lot of
It's
hours,
fun.
But yeah, it is.
So far, I've come in 7th place. That's my best, which is really hard to do.
Yeah. There's
I know.
a lot of good players in there.
Tatted Collector told me that Ream Bean comes in first all the time, and he doesn't know how he does it.
You cheating, Reno? What's going on?
What is that?
All right, those are my top 5 Game Boy games. Andy has his top 5, which again are very similar to mine. So
my top 5 is the same, but I'm going to replace Quirk with the Final Fantasy Legend.
The Final Fantasy Legend.
Yeah. This was the first role-playing game, if you don't count Zelda, because that's more action. This is the first role-playing game that I ever played. And we got this game solely because of the box art.
100%.
Phil was at the store, and I think we had some birthday money to spend or
I was
something.
like, that one looks pretty cool.
And this box art is just, it's the greatest. It's one of my favorite box arts of all time. It's so awesome. It's got a treasure chest that's open and there's a light shining into it. There's a sword and a helmet just kind of sitting there. It invokes these feelings of like exploration and like your like dungeon crawling exploration kind of thing. And then we played the game, we put it in, and it was confusing.
It was
as
like,
crap.
what the heck?
Dude, you start walking around. At first, you think it looks like a Zelda game. At first, I remember thinking, okay, I'm walking around, kind of this overhead view. Okay, I'm controlling this character. Okay, I get it. Now, where are the enemies? Bring them on. I'm going to slash them down.
Nope.
No. All of a sudden, they cut to a different screen, and it's turn-based. You know, you see the enemy in front of you. And dude, the first time you ever try that, you don't even know what is happening. I mean, you're jamming buttons like, you know, slash, you know, fight with a sword. And it's like,
oh man.
But once you understand how a turn-based game works, this game has a lot of depth to it. It's a really good game. There's 4 worlds in this game. Each one is pretty big. I mean, for a Game Boy game, but I love this game.
And the music, there's not it doesn't have the variety of music that the other Final Fantasy games have that we're talking about, but it was an early Game Boy game. What are you going to do? But it's fantastic.
Nothing else sounds like this. Again, these Game Boy games with this music, nothing else sounds like it.
It's incredible.
It's awesome. What's next? N64?
Sega Genesis. No, I'm just kidding. You can skip the Genesis.
Yeah, if you're
Future
watching,
Civilizations, just skip it.
Yeah, you'll be tempted to like try to excavate Genesis stuff, but you're good. You're good.
Let's go to N64.
N64.
All right.
Let's get this N64 show started with Mario Kart 64. This game was the first 4-player game on the N64. Well, it might not have been the first 4-player game, but it was the first 4-player game that really made a big splash.
Huge splash.
This was like, okay, if you didn't have 4 controllers by then, you were rushing out to Target or Walmart to buy more controllers.
Were expensive, but nobody cared.
Dude.
People were just like, I have to have 4 controllers.
Especially if you had a TV big enough. We had a big screen TV, which in 1996 or 1997, that wasn't super common. And it was one of those big weird projection televisions, you know?
Just a huge square in the living room.
Yeah, huge square in the living room. But it worked great. Everyone got their own screen, and it was a good-sized screen. 4 people, we had a blast. This was the reason to go out and buy more controllers. If you didn't have them yet, it was like, okay, I'm in. The battle mode, I mean, there was a battle mode in the previous Mario Kart, but it was only 2 players. Having 4 people in a battle mode just upped the ante so much. And I loved the tracks in battle mode. There was like Block Fort, where it's like there's different levels you can go up. I love
Block Fort. And that's part of the problem with new Mario Karts is that even in battle mode, while they are fun, they're too big. You need to have battle mode to be confined, even with 4 players.
Yeah.
Get it into a small arena type thing where you can kind of see everything at once, maybe. I mean, it's so perfect.
Yeah, this game's awesome. My next game is going to be Ocarina of Time. Where do I start with this game?
Well, you know, when you're watching this in the year 3020, you might think, gosh, all this Zelda stuff and like every system, you guys seem to be in love with Zelda. Everyone loves Zelda so much.
Yeah.
And you might ask yourself, are they really that good, or is it just kind of a hipster thing to do? No, these Zelda games really are that good. Nintendo just keeps cranking out one amazing Zelda game after another. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, and this was the first 3D Zelda game. And at the time, we were kind of worried. Like, dude, Nintendo, you better get this right.
I was terrified.
Yeah. And they got it right. They invented whole new mechanics. They invented the lock-on targeting. They invented the jumping without a jump button. I mean, all that stuff didn't exist before this game. And they nailed it. And the music is awesome. The graphics, even though they're dated and they're kind of foggy and they don't look great, the art style kind of saves it from looking terrible in the year 2020. It's very pretty.
They were very good at working with the hardware limitations on the N64 and making things look like, just making them look prettier than they should be by more or less taking the pixels and just sort of, it's almost like you were able to rub them and just smush them into a cloud kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because if you look really close, most of it's kind of ugly at a really close distance. But most of the time you're not looking at anything that close.
Like when you're using Photoshop, there's that like smear button to like smear the rough edges.
Yeah,
they did that a lot.
More or less what they
smeared
did.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Just sit back and don't look too close.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It really
I love
is.
The next one on my list, dude, it's another Zelda game. What are you gonna do? I mean, don't blame me. Blame Nintendo for making so many great Zelda games. This is Majora's Mask. It's a similar format as other Zelda games. You know, there's like 6 or 7 different castles, and there's a new weapon in every castle, and you use that weapon to beat the boss of that.
But just like the world we're living in right now, the world is ending in this
yes,
game.
this game is very relevant right
It
now.
is.
Yeah, the world is ending. So that's kind of the gimmick with this game, is the world is going to end in 3 days, and everybody knows it. Like, it's not a secret. All the townspeople, everybody's walking around, and it's a little weird. Like, the atmosphere, like, people are just like, yeah,
somber,
world is ending. What are you going to do, you know? Magic instrument you can play to let you go back to the beginning of those 3 days, so you kind of do it over and over again until you do everything that needs to be done. I love this game. It's so different than any other Zelda game. I mean, there's a scene in this, there's a section of this game where you are rescuing cows from being abducted by aliens. Like, I'm not even joking. In a Zelda game. It's wild. And I love it.
I like the game. It's not my favorite. I think I liked it a little bit more until I saw AVGN do a video on it. And then I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't think I like it that much. I don't know. What's next?
What's next?
We got to hurry up here. The world is
this?
world's ending here.
Oh, yeah. So this kind of does make my top 5. I had a lot of fun with this game, and I think it's still playable. I spent probably more time back in the day with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. I can't play those games today. I just can't. Not with that control scheme. I can't do it. This is still fun. I love the 4-player on this. Again, if you had a big TV and you had 4 controllers in 1997, this was an awesome experience. Really like it.
I agree. I love Star Fox 64, and I don't understand why Nintendo stopped making great 4-player Star Fox games. I don't get it. It's just baffling to me. Everyone loved it.
I don't know. And the last game for me on N64 is the very first one. And that's a no-brainer. It's one of the greatest games of all time. If you're from the future, this game probably seems kind of normal to you. Like, oh yeah, every game plays this well. Dude, in 1996, I said this before, when this game came out, it felt like time travelers from the future showed up at our doorstep and said, I'm from the future, here you go. And we went, wow. That's what it felt like. This was so far beyond graphically, control-wise, playing as in a 3D world. It was so far beyond anything that had ever come out prior to that by a light year.
It had no business being a good game. And being a great game, it was an impossibility. The task was impossible for Nintendo to make a great 3D Mario game right out of the gate. Yeah. First one they ever tried. It was impossible, and they did it. They did the impossible.
Other developers for other systems spent the next 10 years farting out Croc and Spyro and Crash and Sonic Adventure and you name it. And all those games play like garbage compared to this.
Skip all those
I don't know how they did it. Yeah, skip all those games I mentioned. Okay. All right, those are my 5.
My top 5 also has Mario Kart 64, Ocarina of Time, and Super Mario 64.
Good choice.
And rounding out my top 5 First one to round out my top 5. I know you're not a big fan of Perfect.
I mean, I was.
When you put this game in and you start playing it, the wonky controls start to... They're doable. Even in 2020, let me tell you, they're very doable. And it doesn't play like Halo or Call of Duty, which obviously we all want that, but it just doesn't. I don't know what to tell you. But it doesn't have, on the one-player campaign, it just doesn't have that choppiness that GoldenEye had. They somehow Rare just worked it all out magically on this game, which only came out like 2 years later. I don't know how they did it. There's co-op. The story is kind of bizarre. You're like a secret agent, and then you infiltrate the government lair, and you find an alien that they were like doing tests on or something.
I remember that little alien.
Yeah,
Elvis.
Yeah. It's really weird. But then, and then the weapons that you get, you start to use weapons that have like X-ray vision, and then you can see where there's a spot on the wall that is weak, so you can blow that up to get through. And it's a tough game. I've actually never finished it. I've gotten to the end multiple times. I tried to finish this game and I could not. It's tough. Wow. So. And speaking of Rare, come on, Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know how this isn't on your list. This is one of my all-time favorite games.
I don't know either. It's awesome.
It's incredible. I would personally say it's probably as good as Mario 64. That's just my opinion, and I'll probably get crucified for that.
You can be wrong about that. That's okay.
What's really missing in a lot of 3D collectathons that this game just nailed is that small world that just feels huge, but it's not that big. But that's the beauty of it, because you walk into it and you're always walking by things that you can't quite get to. And you can see something like, oh, I can't wait until I have the right power up to go that I can see it.
Yeah.
And they just tease you with it constantly. It's just like, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there. And then finally you find the switch and you go get it. And it's just bliss all the way through. It's a perfect collectible. It's not perfect. The very end of it sucks. I hate the very end of this game. On your way to the witch is the dumbest thing ever. But until that point, it's just an incredible experience. Perfect until that point. So that's my top 5. We got to hurry this up, folks. The world is almost about to end here.
It's close.
So
yeah.
What's next?
If you don't have coronavirus yet, you will very soon.
Yeah.
So
we're all getting it. You want to go on the GameCube?
I think the GameCube is next.
Let's do the GameCube.
Yeah.
All right, folks. We don't have much time, so we're only going to do 3 games per system moving forward.
I can feel the coronavirus taking over right now. So
it's hitting us. So I will go first.
Okay.
We're on the GameCube right now. This is another Zelda game. There's going to be one in every generation. What are you going to do? And this is the Wind Waker. And this game aged like a fine wine. The graphics are so pretty. It doesn't look like the Link that we all knew up until that point. It doesn't. But that doesn't matter. Just start playing this game. Listen to the music. It's so beautiful. It just has that polish that Nintendo gave to their Zelda games. It was more of an open world Zelda game than we had seen probably since the first one. I mean, really right out of the bat, you can kind of go anywhere. Get an actual map of the game and lay it out in your lap if you need to. Chart it out as soon as you can, and just start finding all the secrets in this game and going through the dungeons, and then tell me this is not a fantastic Zelda game.
It's awesome.
It is. It's incredible.
When Wind Waker was first announced, a lot of people were really kind of upset because we had gone through this era of like N64, and Nintendo had this kind of cutesy image, and a lot of people were really ready for Link to be like this really mature adult kind of a figure.
Yeah, and we had all just seen Star Wars Episode 1, and we were tired of kiddie stuff at that point.
Yeah, so then we have the new system, we have the GameCube, they announced Wind Waker, and everybody sees these little pictures in magazines. And this was before it wasn't before the internet, but it was before YouTube, it was before videos were really common. For a lot of people, their first exposure to this game was looking at a tiny little picture in a magazine. And if all you see is a still photo and you don't see this game in motion, it looks odd. It looks cartoony. It looks childish.
It looks like you're going to jump to the PS2.
It looks weird.
Yeah.
And a lot of people got really upset because they were expecting a different Link, I guess. But when you
play the game,
when you turn it on and you see that game in motion, it's wild. There's nothing else like it. I mean, there were other cell shaded games, but it was a very bold move for Nintendo to go cell shaded in a mainstream property like that, like Zelda.
Bold is quite the understatement.
Yeah.
Very bold move. We got to keep going here.
Let's keep going.
Hey, look, I have another Mario game on my list.
They're everywhere.
What are you going to do? It's Mario Sunshine, the mechanic of the jetpack, the flood jetpack.
Yeah.
Just open up the whole game. Again, these early 3D platformers, trying to land your character on these things was so difficult in so many games. But Nintendo was like, hey, here's a jetpack. Now you don't have to even worry about it. You just leap into the air, and you'll find what you're looking for. It's a little challenging, but again, great desert island game if you're looking for a challenge.
That's my only complaint, is it's a little too hard.
Yeah. Before, you can kind of just, you can get 30 stars in no time in Mario 64. You get 30 shine sprites in this game. I mean, that's a half a day unless you're pretty experienced at it.
Yeah.
They're tough. It gets tough quick.
It's tough.
Yeah. And the third one is Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime controls are almost unplayable today, but luckily on the Wii there is the Metroid Prime trilogy, and that is the only way to play this game. I'm just holding it up here so I can hold something. Play this on the Wii. Yes, it has motion controls, but you will forgive the motion controls when you start playing the game. It's just phenomenal. It's I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they went from 2D to 3D and made it so good. And it wasn't even developed in Japan. Nintendo just handed this off to this company in Texas that they had acquired. And they were like, here, make a 3D Metroid game, first-person shooter for us. And all those Metroid fans were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But then you play it and you're like, oh, I can't believe they did it. How is it that everything they touched turned into gold? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, the game is phenomenal. So that's my top 3. What's yours?
I'm just going to replace Metroid Prime with Double Dash. So just kind of change of taste here. I really like Double Dash. I love the tracks. I love the you can play 2 players and you're both like on the same cart in this game, and one of you can control the items and the other one drives, and it's pretty wild. It's just, it does everything so much better than any other Mario Kart did before it. So I'm going with Double Dash. There you go.
I love Double Dash. I'm going to go ahead and go a step further and say Double Dash was the last really great Mario Kart game.
That's fair.
Mario Kart 7 on the DS is the second best one to come out since this.
Okay.
I don't care for the Wii or the Switch one is a lot of fun. This on multiplayer occasionally.
Yeah, it
gets boring quickly because talent doesn't mean anything. Skill doesn't mean anything. Skill mattered in this game.
I don't like the Wii one. The Mario Kart Wii, I'm not a fan.
I can't do it.
But Mario Kart 8 for Wii U/Switch, it is good. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
What are we doing next?
That was the GameCube. What are we doing? We're going to do Xbox, PlayStation, PS. Let's do PS1. We haven't done PS1. So we have the same top 3 in PlayStation 1. And in this top 3 is the greatest Castlevania game that has ever or will ever be created by humans. Symphony of the Night. This game is phenomenal from beginning to end. And even when you beat it, you actually haven't beat it. You think you do, and you don't. It's that good. They were like, hey, let's flip this upside down.
Your whole world turns upside down.
The term Metroidvania was probably coined shortly after this came out. I don't know the history on that completely.
I don't know when that term was coined. I know Jeremy Parrish takes credit for inventing that word.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's Jeremy Parrish? Look, Symphony of the Night is just absolute Castlevania perfection. They took everything that was great about the previous 4 or 5, however many Castlevania games they were, and they were like, let's introduce a Metroid style game where when you create a game that's so pretty to look at with such epic music and such great designs and of levels and everything, why not be able to just go back and continually walk through those areas to find more stuff? And that's what they did. This is why I love Super Metroid so much, because you could just keep going back, you get more power-ups, It unlocks something else. Well, now you can go back and you can get that item that you couldn't get before.
Yeah.
And it was every other Castlevania game that I had ever played had just been a linear experience up to that point. You know, left to right, end of the level, boom, you're done. You're at the end of the level. That's not at all what this is. And if you're not a fan of that style of game, maybe it's not for you. But I just adore Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, me too.
You want to talk about?
We'll talk about the
games?
next one. Metal Gear Solid came out at a time when I think Ocarina of Time had just been released.
I want to say it was the same month. To my memory, is the video game magazines were reviewing both games like at the same time.
They were really close to each other. Yeah. So like in 1 month, there were basically 2 games that were receiving like 10 out of 10 scores in all these magazines. So I had never played the first Metal Gear before I played this. I later tried to go back and play it. Dude, I can't do it. Yeah. It's hard. But this game was unlike anything I had ever played before. I mean, the AI you would walk in the snow and a guard would detect your footprints and be like, ooh, something's up here. I mean, nowadays that doesn't seem very advanced, but in 1998, I'd never seen anything like that in my entire life. That level of sophistication with computer characters.
I didn't know it was possible. I really didn't.
Yeah. And you can hide under a cardboard box and they'll just kind of walk by. And there was so much thought put into this game. There was so much care put into it that had never been put into a game before. What's that guy's name when it tells you to put the controller on the floor and he's going to move it? And then it vibrates, and you're just like, what is happening, And he goes, at one point, he's like, I'm going to read your mind. I see you've played Castlevania, Symphony of the Night.
Memory card. Oh,
and I'm like, what? And the tactical espionage, and the plot was decent. And also this game, sorry I'm going a little bit long, this was the first game that I had ever played that had real voice acting, and it wasn't terrible. Mm-hmm. Not only was it not terrible, it was pretty good.
It was excellent.
Prior to this, every game that had voice acting was absolute trash. It was Resident
Evil. Dude. I don't understand it at all.
Oh. You, the master of unlocking.
Even Symphony of the Night was pretty lousy.
Yeah, it was. I know, right? What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But dude, Metal Gear Solid voice acting
top notch
was awesome. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay, and then the third game on our list.
I was looking forward to this game probably more than almost any other game in history.
There's a reason we got the PlayStation.
Yeah.
It was.
And I adored every Final Fantasy game I'd ever played. And so it was like, dude, the next one's coming out and it's on a next-gen system. I'm in. I don't even care what it is. I got this game. I put so much time into this game, you guys. I can't even begin to explain to you how much time I put into this. Go into the underwater, that sunken vessel that you can find, and use the morph feature to kill all the enemies, and they give you status points that you can't just find anywhere else. I grinded so much, I got my Cloud character maxed out on every single one of those stats. Now, most people don't even know what I'm talking about, but if you do know what I'm talking about, you will understand how much time it took to do that. That's how much I love this game.
It's a very important game too. I don't know how many people who are roughly our age who are into RPGs and they have the same story. The one game that got them into RPGs was this game.
Yeah.
Now, our story is different. Maybe we're just older. I don't know. I felt like I was screaming it from the rooftops playing Final Fantasy 2 and 3 on the Super Nintendo. Like, come on, these games are amazing. Everyone should be playing these games. But the reality is that this is the game that turned most Western audiences onto JRPGs. And for most people, they never look back.
Yeah, the marketing was different for this game because prior to this game, RPGs were still looked at as kind of nerdy in Western culture. Mm-hmm. This was the first game that was like really marketed at a mature level. I remember the television commercials for it, and a lot of people that had avoided that kind of nerd culture or whatever, they got this game.
It felt like to me, I noticed right away that it felt like Square had definitely gone, okay, look, we're going to make this game. Americans, for some reason, it drove Square crazy. Americans did not love their RPGs as much as Japan did. And it drove them crazy. And they collaborated with Nintendo, and they created a Mario RPG at one point on the Super Nintendo just to try to shove this JRPG stuff into American televisions.
Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was created for American gamers as a kind of a gateway RPG drug, if you will.
Yeah. And Final Fantasy VII, I noticed right away, I was like, this looks too American. And it's one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of this game. I prefer the older ones because it just felt like they were Americanizing it. And the thing that I love about Final Fantasy games to begin with was that it didn't feel like America. It really did feel like a whole nother world. I don't know, maybe ancient Japan. I don't know, whatever you wanted it to be is what it felt like. And then it was like, he's got this gigantic sword and he's riding a motorcycle around and stuff. And I was just like, this isn't what I had envisioned. But all that aside, the game is super well designed. And it's super important. All right, folks. We just got word that the coronavirus has hit this neighborhood, and our house, we're about to explode. So it's been real. I wish we had time to continue. We could go all the way to modern systems.
That's it.
If for some reason we survive, maybe we'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
Keep going. But for now, this is what we have. If you find this collection room with these games, these are the ones you should play.
The virus, it's just down the street.
Drink up.
All right, guys.
All right. See you next time. No, we won't see you next time.
I know.
What am I saying?
This is it.
There is no
We're
next
signing
time.
off.